the KEF success story. Let me share a real-world success story that I think will inspire you. This is about KEF, a world-renowned manufacturer of high-end audio speakers. They're a global company with operations across multiple countries, and they're known for their commitment to quality and innovation. KEF came to FuturePlus because they recognised that their approach to sustainability was fragmented. They had different teams in different regions working on various environmental and social initiatives, but there was no central coordination. They weren't tracking their overall progress, and they had no systematic way to measure their impact. The leadership team at KEF had several specific goals. They wanted to go back to basics and define their most material sustainability priorities, what really mattered for their business and their stakeholders. Second, they wanted to ensure transparent reporting. They wanted to be able to communicate their sustainability performance to their customers, their employees, and their investors with confidence and credibility. Thirdly, they wanted to avoid any risk of greenwashing. They'd seen other companies get into trouble for making claims they couldn't substantiate, and they were determined not to fall into that trap. Fourthly, they wanted to align their global operations under a clear, consistent strategy. Everyone should be working forwards towards the same goals, using the same metrics and following the same processes. And they wanted to ensure that they were prepared for growing regulatory demands. They could see the ESG reporting requirements were expanding, and they wanted to be ahead of that curve rather than scrambling to catch up. They also wanted to centralise their sustainability data collection and reporting. Instead of having data scattered across different systems and regions, they wanted a single source of truth. And finally, they wanted to identify both the sustainability opportunities and the risks in their business. Where could they make the biggest positive impact? And where were they also most vulnerable? So how did we help them achieve these goals? We started with a comprehensive assessment of their ESG baseline. We worked with teams across different regions to understand what they were already doing. And just like the examples I've shared earlier in this course, we discovered that they were further along than they thought. They had a lot of good work happening. It just wasn't organised or measured systematically. Next, we helped them identify gaps and priorities by comparing their initiatives across regions. Some regions were doing brilliant work on energy efficiency, others were strong on employee well-being, others had made progress on supply chain engagement. By mapping all of this, we could see where they were strong and where they had gaps. Then we worked with them to build an internal sustainability strategy with tailored actions for different departments. The operations team had specific energy and waste reduction targets. The HR team had employee wellbeing and development initiatives. The procurement team had supplier engagement goals. Everyone had a clear role to play. We also helped them to establish a stronger governance framework. They created a sustainability steering committee with representation from different parts of the business. They refreshed existing policies and created new ones where there were gaps. They established clear accountability for sustainability performance. One of the key initiatives was launching a supplier sustainability questionnaire. KEF had a complex supply chain, and they wanted to understand the environmental and social practices of their suppliers. So we helped them design a questionnaire that was comprehensive but not overwhelming, and they began rolling it out to their key suppliers. Throughout this process, we helped them take critical first steps in measuring their carbon emissions. This was important because their customers were increasingly asking for this data, and they wanted to be able to provide it with confidence. So what were the results? KEF's FuturePlus sustainability scores have increased by 15% since they started working with us. This reflects real, measurable improvements in their ESG performance across environmental, social, and governance dimensions. They're now publishing their first comprehensive impact report and are doing it with full confidence in the transparency and accuracy of their data. They're not worried about greenwashing accusations because everything they're doing is backed by evidence. They've established a governance framework that ensures sustainability is embedded in their business operations, not treated as a separate add-on. And they've built much better visibility into their supply chain, which helps them manage risks and identify opportunities for collaboration with suppliers. But here's what I think is the most important. KEF's story shows that this is achievable. They're not a massive multinational with unlimited resources. They're a mid-sized business with the same challenges you probably face. Limited time, limited budget, competing priorities. What made the difference was taking a systematic approach. They started with an assessment, they built on what they already had, they focused on their material issues rather than trying to do everything. They established governance and accountability. They engaged their supply chain. They measured their progress and they communicated transparently. These are the same principles we've been teaching you throughout this course, and they work. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by ESG, remember KEF's story. Remember that progress is possible. Remember that you don't have to do everything at once. And remember that with the right framework and support, you can build an ESG program that strengthens your business and creates real impact. In the next module, we are going to talk about the final piece of the puzzle, how to communicate your ESG performance to your stakeholders. Because doing the work is only half the battle. You also need to talk about it effectively.